Have you ever been scrolling through dating apps and just felt like something's off? Like you're shopping for a partner, not falling in love? Well, if you feel like modern life is threatening the whole idea of love, you're not alone. One philosopher thinks it's a real and present danger, but he also thinks we can save it. So let's get into it.
So, we're going to be digging into the key ideas from the French philosopher Alain Badiou's book, In Praise of Love. It's a short book, but wow, it packs a punch. He really goes after our modern approach to romance and lays out this radical, pretty compelling new way to think about it all.
Now, Badiou kicks the whole thing off with this line from the poet Arthur Rimbaud, and it is the perfect starting point for everything we're about to talk about. The idea here isn't just to defend love as it is, but to actively reimagine what it could be, right here, right now.
Okay, so what's the big problem according to Badiou? Well, he argues that love is being attacked from all sides. And the weirdest part? The threat is often disguised as a helpful promise, something that's supposed to make our lives easier.
He points straight at marketing for dating sites. You know, these slogans that promise you love without any of the mess, be in love without falling in love, or get love without chance. It's this idea that you can have this perfectly safe, totally sanitized version of love, the kind where you never ever risk getting your heart broken.
And that leads us right to the first huge threat he talks about, this really seductive idea that love can be, and maybe should be, a totally risk-free experience, something you can manage and calculate right from the very beginning.
And this just lays out the whole conflict so clearly. On the left, you've got the pitch from the dating sites, a coached, painless relationship. But on the right, you see how Badiou sees it. This isn't love, he says, it's an insurance policy. It's a business deal that completely strips out the passion, the surprise, all the poetry of a real human encounter.
And to show you just how bonkers he thinks this zero-risk love idea is, he makes this really provocative comparison. He says it's just like military propaganda, promising a clean war with smart bombs where nobody on your side gets hurt. It's a dangerous fantasy, he argues, whether you're talking about war or love, because it pretends that these huge, life-changing experiences can happen without any possibility of pain or loss.
So he really boils it down to two big enemies of what he calls genuine love. First, there's the safety threat, where love becomes this consumer product you pick from a catalog, pre-screened to fit your exact preferences. And then there's the hedonism threat, which is the idea that love is just for fun, for your own personal pleasure. And you get to avoid the really hard but essential work of dealing with someone who is truly fundamentally different from you.
Now, to really get where Badiou is coming from, you have to know that philosophers have never agreed on what love is. I mean, for centuries, it's been this huge intellectual battleground, and it usually breaks down into two main camps.
Yeah, philosophy has basically swung from one extreme to the other. You've got the total cynics, like Schopenhauer, who basically said, love is just a biological trick our genes play on us to keep the human race going. And then on the other side, you've got people like Kierkegaard, who saw love as this profound journey that could lead to something almost divine. And Kierkegaard actually mapped it out. He saw this progression. You start at the aesthetic level. Just think of a character like Don Juan, who's only in it for his own pleasure. But it can grow into the ethical level, which is a real, lasting commitment to another person. And for Kierkegaard, that commitment could take you to a religious level, where love connects you to something so much bigger than yourself.
So Badiou looks at all this history and says, okay, I'm going to carve out my own path. For him, real love doesn't start with a safe, calculated plan. It doesn't start with selfish desire. It begins with the one thing modern dating is trying to get rid of: pure, random chance.
Okay, this right here is the absolute heart of his idea. He calls love a truth procedure. So what on earth does that mean? Well, it means that love kicks off with a totally random event, an encounter. And from that moment, you commit to building a whole new way of seeing the world. You're not just living from your perspective anymore, the point of view of one. You're now experiencing life from the shared perspective of two.
And this is the part that is so important. While all the apps are trying to find your perfect match, your clone, Badiou is saying that love is actually a construction project. It's about taking two totally different people, two different worlds, and building a new, shared reality out of that difference. It's a real adventure into what he calls otherness.
Which brings us right back to the beginning. See, if love is supposed to be this grand construction, this adventure, this risk, then the safe commercial version we're being sold today isn't just a lame substitute, it's an actual threat to the real thing. And that is exactly why, as Rimbaud said, it has to be reinvented.
So reinventing love means we have to actively fight back.
We have to push against that temptation for our risk-free insurance policy. We have to choose the adventure over the easy comfort of predictable pleasure. This isn't about defending some old-fashioned idea of love. It's about creating it, right now, with all the risk and uncertainty that comes with it.
And that's really the final challenge Badiou leaves us with. In a world that is screaming at us to play it safe, to avoid risk at all costs, he's asking us to do the opposite, to embrace risk as the very place where love begins. And that's not just some abstract philosophical question, right? It's a question about how every single one of us chooses to live.